I'd like to introduce for a keynote with a topic of 5G changing everything. She is the global head of dedicated wireless network from Nokia. Please welcome on the stage right now, Ms. Jane Rygaard.
I would also like to say thank you for the invitation to come to, what I thought was sunny Dubai, right? I arrived from cold Europe and I arrived in the rain over the Saturday evening. And I have to admit, it's the first time I ever been to Dubai in the rain. It was a rather pleasant surprise. So at least new experiences coming here. Then I promised that I would talk a little bit about, we often say 5G will change everything. Well, will it really? I'll try to tell you what I think and why I think it will change everything that what we do. But first, I would like to congratulate, I would say, the wider region, quite coming from Europe, talking about 5G. I would say I'm often using this region as to show front runners on 5G, right? So I wanted to congratulate you all because this is not an effort of one company, it's an effort of a whole region and the ecosystem around it. So thank you for me being allowed to use you as a good example when I travel the world to talk about 5G. Often we have a tendency of only talking about the US or maybe Korea, right? But I would say you have something really good going here. Then, first of all, when we talk about change, I would say, and now I look across the room, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but the average age of us here in the room is not really showing the change of how we do technology, right? Most of us has been in this industry for so long that I could see many still remember the first time we got 9.6 kilobits per second on a 2G network in the mobile area, right? And we were really happy we could get the headers out to actually read any of our emails. But then if we look at our kids, and if we look at the younger generation, not only how we live, we heard earlier about how we learn, what schools are doing, how our whole societies are now engaging with technology in a different way. And I would say we are on an era of actually changing it one step further. So not only how we consume in terms of what we buy, in terms of, again, I got Fortnite playing kids. It's amazing how much time the parents now have to wait to get out of the door because I just need to finish this game and I can't take it with me, right? So we are constantly changing how we engage with the technology, what we use it for, how we live. But the next part is really going to change also a lot more about how we work. So up until now, when we talk about that we are digitizing, we're putting everything on zeros and ones, we often talk about, yeah, I can work online, right? I share my documents with my colleagues, and we think we're very, very advanced in this case because we put everything online and I can work like this. So that has been the first part, that we managed to take the physical world and we're putting it into zero and ones. We talk about IoT, and we're really just replacing the physical world with a digital version of the same. When that comes, we start talking about digital twins. But digital twins is not just an image, right? We need to do something with it. So the next step we need to get to is that we need to be able to take this digital world and we need to be able to control the physical world of it. When we get there, we are one step further. And now I'm here to talk about technology, but I will say that the biggest challenge of doing not the first one, because that is technology. Do we understand to put things on zeros and ones? Do we put them in our data centers? Do we discuss where the data centers are? Are they connected with fiber? Are they connected with something else? All of this we do today. But the mindset change that we need to have when we want to start controlling the physical, if I want to change my habits as a human to work, then the next step is a very big one. And it's got nothing to do with what we produce of technology, how we deliver it, but the work we need to do as humans to change it. So we need to change, and we are changing how we use technology, one step at a time. Well, I want to give you a few examples. So with the way we interwork with technology, we often talk about response time. So from a 5G perspective, we talk about low latencies. We also talk about an LTE, can we do with 25 milliseconds in a delay, including the applications and what can I do with edge clouds and everything else. But why do we need it? What is an online edge application and why is that even a need, apart from my kids' gaming's need for these things, to go any further? Well, if I listen, if I see, if I either smell or I can also taste things. The brain functions that we have, they take a couple of 100 milliseconds to react. Way back when I was at university, I had a small, my master thesis was on how to measure brain reactions from a touch, right? So superconductors, and it was very, very cool. But the point was, I realized that by doing this, I actually had a mix of signals because I used a visual input for having somebody to touch a button. And that was exactly the same brain reaction time. And I overlaid the two, and I didn't know if I was actually measuring if people were seeing something or they were touching something. So it was not very good. But we have around these 100 milliseconds to react to as people. If I want to engage in this terminology with technology, then I need to make sure that whatever robotics, whatever I have of my bigger train of machines that I need to interwork with, that I actually do it in a way that is realistic for us as humans. This is where we get to nice figures of cycle times, availability, how do I engage with this, so I make sure the machines do what I want to do. The next step of this, which is where we really need to think what we want to do. Some of you talk about or have seen things like haptic internet. Can I touch things? Can I actually get a feel for what they are? If we get out of touch with this, then it's about a badly synchronized movie, right? Lips are moving, sound is coming a little bit later, and we can all see it doesn't really work. So as soon as we start trying to combine what we see, what we hear, we are very quick at realizing it doesn't work. We also know it from VR glasses, right? Virtual reality. If it's too slow, we get a little bit sick. It doesn't really work because our brain actually works faster than the technology we're using. Now, if I add touch, I want to feel what the robot I'm sending out there is actually feeling. Well, if I at the same time have a visual, I need to have, it says here 1 to 10 milliseconds. The normal touch processing time within our brain is around 7 milliseconds. Now, if I have a processing time of 7 milliseconds, and those of you who work on the software stack, let me guess, you also need a few milliseconds to process, right? That means from a network perspective, I don't have very much time to do with. This is where we're really thinking not only how fast is the fiber. I can't go very far away. Pure physics is against me, right? We have not yet solved and speed up the speed of light and can get to things faster. So I need to make sure I have application processing. I have all of this so close that I in total do not get out of sync with my touch. So this is where we start changing not only how we use technology, but also what we use technology for and what it can do for us. I want to give a few examples, and I know that 5G in mining is a bit far out. We have a lot of projects at the moment around the world where we see LTE being deployed in mining. And you might say, is this really necessary? We have autonomous trucks, we don't need them. But if you try to do a quick Google and see how many autonomous truck accidents has there been in mines the last couple of years, there's been a lot more than you actually think. You don't hear much about them unless you read the mining industry news. But the point is that with this, one accident with a truck, the cost of this truck means that we can do a lot more simply for saying, what are we doing from a cost perspective around this? For the other speakers before me, and normally when we talk about consumer services, we talk about monetizing. We want to monetize networks, right? We're a telco industry. We like this. But for these guys in these kind of industries, they don't talk about monetization. They talk about how can I reduce my cost. So the network, the value of the network lies in how to make sure that the cost is not a problem. If the downtime of a network here that I'm running on, if I have a downtime of, I think it's something like 12 or 13 hours, is equivalent of a third of the value of one of those trucks. So whatever I can do to constantly have the mine running as an optimization part, the value of the network is very high. Now, Wi-Fi exists. Wi-Fi is not really good in broad areas. If any of you are working anywhere close to planning or propagation thinking, a mine, specifically an open pit one, has a constant change in topology, right? Which means if you're a network planner, it can either be your dream or your nightmare. It's a dream if you like to have constant work, and it's a nightmare if you try to predict what it actually looks like in terms of patterns throughout. So mining is one of the places where we see, and I also believe that this is applicable here in this region, right? That we do see more and more, how can we as humans engage with the technology to get something out of it from a perspective of productivity, but also where can we actually reduce some of the human errors and the human impact on safety that is there. Mines have a lot of blowing. We need to make sure that when we do explosions in the mine, that there's no problems for the humans in there. So one example is where we see that the way of working will be changing. Another one is manufacturing. Again, it's been touched on before, Industry 4.0, industrial IoT. We talk a lot about it, but the point is that, coming back to my digital twin, one thing is that we can digitize and I can get a copy of the factory. I can collect the data. It is so today that 90% of the data in the manufacturing industry is actually not collected out of it. We have a factory, Nokia, where we're producing some of our radio gear in the northern Finland. And when we had to do, of course, we had to try things ourselves and said, okay, let's make a digital twin of this factory so we can be better at operating it ourselves. The first part is that the standard factory, whatever you're manufacturing, have often up to 22 different Ethernet standards that is being used for the equipment. So that's the first part. We come with a telco hat on, we have 3GPP, very happy about a lot of technology and standardization, and you walk into an industry where even though all of it is called Ethernet, it's not the same, right? So there's a lot of work to do, there's a lot of collaboration to do this, and we need to get to a part that in order to not collect the data, but the next step of how we engage with it is something that needs to happen together within that industry. I will bring this on. What we achieved in our case by looking at the digital twins, when we look at our own factories, right? We were quicker at doing rapid prototyping. So how quickly can I change my production lines in order to get things out? A big thing in manufacturing, can I reduce the batch size? Do we need, if I'm producing washing machines, if I'm producing quick consumer goods, how quickly rapidly can I change my production line? So I don't need to produce 5 million of something, but maybe, as discussed with one of my colleagues the other day, maybe I can order my absolutely own personal thing that comes engraved with my name on, and the production line can produce a batch lot of one. Now that would be amazing if that was a total cost of ownership perspective. That means me as a consumer would still be able to buy it. Some of the things we did, and I'm more than happy to discuss it also in the break afterwards, but it's really about how could we speed up the productivity within our own factories. There's a lot more to say. We were working with the World Economic Forum on showcasing and actually proving that some of these numbers are out there and what we can do when we use technology in a different way than we've been going to so far. The last topic I want to touch on, and it has been said a little bit, there was nice sustainability goals on before. I really like that. I thought I should have taken that as a starting point for my own presentation. But when we talk about climate, there's a lot of discussion around climate and what we need to do, how do we actually impact this. Some of you heard me say before, the overall ICT industry is responsible for approximately 2% of the world's CO2 emission. That is simply just for us as a telco industry, as the bigger ICT, for being alive, right? We power on data centers, people charge their phones, we have powers on, if you're a mobile operator, your cell towers actually takes quite a bit of power. So one thing is what we need to do as an industry to make sure we reduce that we use renewable energy where it's possible. Where we can we reduce AC? Can I put in liquid cooling in the base stations as Nokia and therefore help with this? But the other part we also need to be very, very clear about is that we don't only have a footprint. The ICT industry has got the opportunity to reduce the overall CO2 emission by up to 6%, simply by saying the data we collect can be used not only for productivity, but also in terms of energy handprints. Where can I be better? Where can I reduce? And this is not only about remember to switch off the light when you leave a room, right? This is when we talk about the big productivity parts, factories, mines, ports, airports. Where can we reduce as much as we are? We can do much more if we use the data we have correctly. And in that case, the ICT is part of the solution and not only the problem. So not only the solution for education and making sure we connect people, but also we have a role to play in the other side. With this, I just want to say that I think that when we change how we work, so the mindset, the processes based on the technology, and we start combining, and this was actually in the previous presentation as well, not only the physical world going into digital, but we combine it with us as humans, the biological systems that we have out there. And we do this in real time. We are able to change, I would say, the wider society. I know it's a bit wide and I can flop my arms up here, but I really believe that we do have, and with this, I would like to finalize to say, yes, I do believe that 5G is changing everything, because we can change every industry, every business, and every experience we have as humans. Because the one thing that goes through all of this is us as people. And if technology is not being used for us in our terms, then we're not changing anything. But if we understand what we can do and therefore also have the right request for the technology, we are able to change how we live, how our societies are functioning, and how we work. Then often the question I get, so when we've done this, what are we getting out of it? Because if I give an hour more to my kids, they'll continue to play. But maybe we could actually also spend that hour together and do something as humans and let the technology not only doing the vacuuming at home and the house, but also give us time together to have other kinds of discussions and use some of the creativity we have as humans. So with this, I want to say thank you. And for any of the further discussions, I'm here for the rest of the day. Thank you.